Incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas appear. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage, we offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas.
Hello, everyone. Good to see everybody. I'm going to invite us to just settle in here and take a deep breath, blow it out, and just be present here. Bring yourself, collect yourself, and settle in. This breathing in is a miracle. This breathing out, release. This breathing in, a welcome to the unseen gifts which sustain us each moment. This breathing out, a sweet sigh, a bow to our mortality. This breathing in, a holy yes to life. This breathing out, a sacred no to all that causes us to clench and grasp. This breathing in is a revelation. This breathing out, freedom. Oh, welcome back. We're reading True Stories about a Holy Monk. And Santi, you're able to bring it up on the screen. We have yet to discover where these books, if there are any, are. So we're going to continue to read the book here. You can find it on Master Zazi's website. And we'll collectively just be together with this reading. We got to page 18 last week. I'm going to kind of step back and read a little bit more of what we talked about last week to bring us up to where we are today. We're going to also talk about the altar and go through the mudras and the mantras that we learned a few weeks ago with Venerable Panyawati. We're going to start again on page 18. If you should happen to have the book, or it will be up here. Santi, it starts with, therefore, cultivation is totally a matter of daily practice. It's the very first section. It's in the first lecture given by the elder monk at the Bodhi Monastery, and there doesn't appear to be anything announcing this section beyond that. Therefore, cultivation is totally a matter of daily practice. Where have we heard that before? One must engage in cultivation and practice concentration as much as possible on a daily basis. Only then can one be reborn in the Western paradise. I'm not saying this to scare you all. I'm telling you the truth. I'm speaking the truth. You would be able to immediately tell if I spoke falsely. If what I am saying is not true, if who one simply recites the name of Amitabha Buddha can 100% rest assured that he will be reborn in the Western paradise. The Buddhas would not have taught that one must constantly practice the 6 paramitas and would not have established so many precepts and rules of disciple and restrain everybody. It would be so easy. One would just recite the name of Amitabha Buddha 10 times, and one would be reborn in the Western paradise. There would be no need for the sutras. The Tripitaka could be burned up. We would only need to keep the sutra of unending life, and that would be enough. We would not need the Sukhavati Vayuva Sutra, the Sutra of Western Paradise. Think carefully about what I'm saying. I'm telling you that is important, is deep. I'm telling you that it's important, is deep. Carefully ponder it over. Now then, there are those who think that as long as they recite the name of Amitabha Buddha with the most sincere heart possible, they will be able to see Amitabha Buddha. They think that especially if one engages in the austere practice of prolonged samadhi, one will be able to see Amitabha Buddha and will certainly be reborn in the Western paradise. However, I will clearly tell all of you something today. It is true that the merit gained through practicing prolonged concentration is great. Nevertheless, it is not the case that if for 3 months one does not sleep, does not engage in sitting meditation, and engages in standing visualization and recitation, that one will then be able to see Amitabha Buddha. Actually, many virtuous cultivators who lived in ancient times practiced prolonged concentration not only once or twice. Some even practiced it 8 or 9 times. With respect to some of them, this resulted in their legs becoming disabled or their bodies becoming sick. Yet they still did not see Amitabha Buddha. Some of them were even unable to have control over life and death, and their disciples were unable to receive any empowerment from the Buddha Dharma. History shows that some of them were even unable to protect their inanimate temples, which disappeared without a trace. What is the reason for this, after all? It is mainly because they did not truly hold the secret of the Pure Land school. What is the secret? Some say the secret is reciting the name of Amitabha Buddha according to the teachings of the sutras. As far as I'm concerned, the minds of these people are probably somewhat muddled. What they say is too simple. Those who understand the secret understand it. Those who do not understand it can read the sutras over and over and still will not understand the secret. I believe that there will be a day when the Dharma conditions will be mature for me to tell you this inexhaustibly profound principle of the Pure Land School. Before the time comes for me to tell you, your primary concern should be to abstain from doing anything wrong, to practice doing all good deeds, and to receive the name of Amitabha Buddha with a concentrated mind. We should have unlimited respect and admiration for him.
Venerable had mentioned to Soma and I that it was very important for her that we not only read the words of this and understand it from this perspective, but also the heart. And the heart is in much in part with some of our practices, like the altar practice. So we're going to just reinforce some of what we talked about already and go over the mudras and the mantras again and take a little time. She wants us to be doing this every day. So first I'll just talk a little bit about the order of things again and just kind of the setup. We have 8 bowls and they should all be about a rice width apart. A grain of rice. The first one and the second one are water. And the way Venerable describes it, it's water for the hands and water for the feet. And then the third bowl is flowers.
I'll be the Vanna White here.
The fourth bowl is incense. The fifth bowl is light. And then the sixth is incense. And then we've got food and sound.
I just want to mention that these don't have water right now. But it's, this isn't a real flower, but it's nice to have, fresh flowers to be able to provide. This is a roll of incense. So you can have a stick of incense, or this is a candle representing light.
There is perfume in there.
Yes. It's like, wow. And these wonderful candies, food.
And you do want your altar, your offerings to be very nice. Like Soma was saying, if you can do fresh flowers, it's really nice to have fresh flowers. I have some really beautiful dried flowers in mine.
You want us to, for us to establish our altar, of course, we need to, limit the
You would,
size of the things and.
yes, you can buy offering bowls of any size and any type, really. You just want it to be a heartful offering. So you want it to be a nice bowl. And if you can, put fresh flowers or pretty dried flowers. The food is another thing that if you can, like nice food offerings are wonderful to put on your altar. And then you can take out a piece of fruit or something that you find really nice. One thing that you want to keep in mind is that when you're buying something nice, you don't want to contaminate the offering by thinking, I don't want to spend a lot of money on it, or I spent a lot of money on it, or something like that. It should be very pure and heartfelt. So you want to think about everything that goes into that in a pure and an untainted way. The question was, is there something significant about the number 8? And I don't know that I know the answer.
Yes, and I don't have the answer for that either.
To that. Right.
When we were in California at the temple there, both sister and I did the water offerings every day. And these were big big containers, beautiful crystal containers. So you can get very elaborate with your altar. For those of us that have our own personal altars, it needs to be much smaller just because of our particular altar. So it's not particular to that, but have it reflect the respect and honor that we're stepping into.
Another thing to keep in mind is that even though what's on the offer should be nice, it's a representation. So when you're doing the mudra and the mantra, you can visualize something far greater than what's actually on your altar. You can picture a field of flowers, the most beautiful flowers you've ever seen. You can picture flowers that don't even exist, you know. Same with food. I picture tormas and I picture beautiful pastries like I've seen in Portugal, and just the best that you can imagine. The sound, celestial sounds, harps, whatever, it's something beautiful. With each one, you just really want to offer up the best that you can imagine. So it's an opportunity to be really sincere, practice devotion, practice reverence, and really concentration. That was just referenced in what we just read is the purpose and the value of concentration. So it's an opportunity to get your 3 karmas of body, speech, and mind in line. And you're doing that with your voice, saying the mantra, the mudra with your body, and your mind with that devotion and concentration in that way. So it's a powerful practice.
Why the hands and feet are on wash separately? They're both body parts.
The question is, do we know why hands and feet would be washed separately? And I think that is something more historic that from the Buddha's day, that those were things that occurred before stepping into practice or imparting the Dharma. That's my understanding. Do you know any different?
I don't know any different. And these are great questions that we can revisit with Venerable to get a different answer if there is one, or more of an answer. Yeah.
So I don't quite have a picture of doing all the practice. So I wake up in the morning. What am I doing? How long does it take? And do I like the incense? Do I like the incense? Is that useful? Or
The question is about the practical details of how you might step into offering, to doing the altar practice, and whether you have to light the incense. And the learning from Buddha actually talks about a little bit about what you might do to kind of do the preparatory practices. But I will do prostrations beforehand and then sit down on my meditation cushion. Oftentimes I'll sing incense burning, do the offerings, and then engage in whatever Dharma practice I'm going to engage in for that day. So it's the very beginning. It's entering in. And I don't light I light incense, but not for my offering bowls.
inviting the Buddha and Bodhisattva to join us and
Mhm.
pleased with our practice.
Mm.
But this is preliminary to whatever practice we're going to do that day, whether it's a sitting meditation or a Dharma.
This is a preliminary. Yes. And the reason why I don't light the incense is because I'm offering it. I guess you could burn it and that could be an offering, but I think the way I remember Venerable talking about it, that's something separate. That's what you're offering. So you're not actually burning it.
So it is a representative. It's helping you to represent to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and to provide this to them and to the practice.
So I guess I can set this here. Okay. So starting from the left, first you say Om, Om, and then War Gong with your left hand. Badang, right hand over. Bube, Dube, Warlage, Gende, Lawede, and then you could say Shabda, or it's been like a conch shell. And then you say Zadi Za Hong Soha. Please accept these offerings. Sariza Hong Soha. That's right. We do have this written down. Yes, yes. Yes, we did. And we can share that.
Possible that our binders from 2 years ago have just in there. I know the mudras, some of the mudras are in there. Some of the binders from when we were doing the Vajrayana training. And it was what is cultivation, but we also, she was teaching us, and she taught us about the 31 realms, and that's all in the binder. And there were also mudras, and she taught us mudras.
Well, that was
Some of
the
them were
same.
hard to
Mhm.
do, so we do them all. But are they in there? Is that what am I, do you know what I'm talking about?
We just don't call it. We just start.
This would have been the same mantras, but yeah, we'll make sure y'all have it.
Bet you those binders, yeah, I bet you there's a binder in the binder. I don't know. That's where we got it.
So, I neglected to bring this.
Oh. Use the microphone.
I neglected to bring them. They're in my room. So I can either go get them now or we can practice it because it's just a moment that we want to just practice it. We'll continue to practice it. We'll offer this
We'll
every,
reinforce it.
yeah. So it's not like one and done kind of thing. So we'll do it again and then we'll do it again. We'll do it again and then we'll continue reading. And then at the end, I'll go get the papers. We can make copies that you can take with you.
I'll repeat the question. Go ahead.
What we're doing is actually the images are corresponding with each of the bowls.
That's right. So war gong is water for the hands, water for the feet, and it should flowers, incense, light like a lighter, perfume like a bottle, food. Venerable says it's like the horn, and then sound.
So when I learned this with Master Zazi, the food was when we did this, it was the food from the earth also.
Oh, that's right. That's another good way to think about it. Yeah, like a seed planted and growing. Mhm. So we'll do it one more time and then we'll continue with the reading and we can revisit this. But it is a really special practice. So it's nice to be able to talk about it together. Okay, so war gong, badong, bube, dube, warlage, gende, lawede, shabda. Sariza hong soha. Good. Oh. That's a very good question. So the question was, when you complete your Dharma practice for the day, what do you do at that point? And there's never, you can offer the offerings at the end of your practice too. I usually do. And then you can leave the water. And if it's fresh food or fresh flowers, you just want to make sure that they're tended to. But the water in particular, you can leave overnight, but not more than that. You want to replace it with fresh water every day. And have a clean bowl. So you just want to be respectful with that. And also when I'm thinking about offering the water, I'm thinking of like the most purest, sweetest water, even that, so that's a great question. Yes, Sandy. Mm-hmm. That's right. Santi Caro just reminded that if you do empty the bowls after a period of time, maybe at the end of the day, and you're going to leave them empty, it's considered disrespectful to leave an empty bowl on your altar. So you want to clean, dry, and stack if you were going to leave the bowls empty. I usually just keep them until the next morning and replenish with clean water. So I don't usually have empty bowls, but if you do, that's what you want to do.
And when I think about how we care for our altar, I know it can, or to me, it can start to sound like, oh, all these rules and things I want to get right. And it's just like, it feels similar to how when we grow up, we learn how to care for things in a certain way, that, you know, we clean our space in a certain way. And it's just another way that we're learning how to care for something that's important to us. So I think of it like that, so that it's not so much about like some rules, but it's just learning how to tend to and care for the things that are important to us spiritually.
That's great. The other thing with the water is it's holy water once you've done this. And so being able to take this water and give it to your houseplants or outside to the tree or the shrubs or whatever, to be able to gift it. So that's another wonderful one. We were doing this at the temple. It was every morning and I loved it. I loved every minute. And she had many altars. It wasn't just one. And the main altar was these big vessels. And then we had the green Tara altar and the Buddha Master altar. And we had the medicine Buddha, which was, I have a number of people that are needing some energy from Buddha. So I spent some time at the medicine Buddha and then the Huan Yen and then the ancestor altar. So it was altar. So this is our home offering, but you just can imagine when I do mine now, I imagine all those altars that I spent time at. And then there too, and this is just building on it. It's not something I have to do, but when we were done, we would put incense around each water vessel. So there's lots of additional pieces that do not, you don't need to put into, but it's really just a way, as Santi talked about, it's building a way of being present in my mind to our practice, the cultivation piece of that. So thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to continue reading. With respect to esoteric Buddhism, Amitabha Buddha is, of course, its founder. Within esoteric Buddhism, he also transmits the lofty Dharma of the Pure Land school. One can only say that the Dharma of esoteric Buddhism is not the same as the Dharma of the exoteric Pure Land school with respect to the method of being reborn to the Western paradise. The Dharma of esoteric Buddhism achieves the same goal, but with means that are different from the Pure Land school. What is most important concerning the Dharma of esoteric Buddhism is the empowerment one receives from reciting mantras from the lineage of one sect. Simply put, the esoteric method is somewhat more secure. This is what I want to say. With the esoteric method, one does not need any of the dharmas which require one to go through countless eons before attaining liberation. Although one can attain liberation in this lifetime, one must nevertheless seriously cultivate oneself. One must nevertheless seriously cultivate oneself. And last week we talked a lot about what that looks like for you, for all of us. How does that walk out for you? I think sometimes it's so easy to just talk about, oh, I need to cultivate, but really to pay attention to what that is and how that is for you throughout your day, into the evening, and when you wake up in the morning. I'm not saying here that merely reciting the name of Amitabha Buddha is not good. Reciting the name of Amitabha is very good. If your daily power of concentration is good, and you are able to cause your entire mind to be free of confusion, then this is excellent. You would all be my good disciples. Hence, the Pure Land School is a good Buddha Dharma. Its essence lies in achieving a state wherein the entire mind is not confused. The Pure Land School within esoteric Buddhism is different due to the empowerment one receives from reciting mantras and from the lineage of one sect. Actually, they both are good Buddha Dharmas. You continue. His? I'm not sure. Yes, so, but in terms of, I'll have to check on that.
He talks a little bit coming up about some of the traditions that he's practiced. With respect to the matter, is that where we are? Okay.
Yeah.
With respect to the matter of awakening to one's original mind and understanding one's original nature through the practice of Chan or Zen Buddhism, one can meditate upon or contemplate the answer to a koan, water, light, a temple, a bodhisattva, the question, who am I? The question, where did I come from and where will I go? The question, at this present moment, is this me? A seed of a cypress tree in front of a pagoda, or a leaf from a tree. One gets at the root of things and contemplates until one can contemplate no more, until one reaches a state where there are no more thoughts, yet at the same time it is not the case that there are no more thoughts. All thoughts are empty. At this time, one realizes one's original nature and in an instant clearly sees one's original mind. One thoroughly sees one's original nature. These are the principles of the Chan school. I cannot explain them to you clearly. Only those who have engaged in contemplation and meditation and who have certain skills in this regard know the meaning of what I am now saying. The Chan school is a good Dharma by which many founders of sects throughout the generations have attained liberation. However, it is always those of great virtue and eminent monks who have attained liberation. With respect to ordinary people attaining enlightenment through the Chan school, well, I do not want to say whether the Chan school is good or not. You should bear in mind that otherwise the Buddhas would not have said that one must go through countless eons before attaining liberation. I think that in Taiwan, many people practice Chan. There are also many people in mainland China who practice Chan. There are also many people in Canada who practice Chan. They have practiced for many years. Ask them if they have attained enlightenment, and if so, how they attained enlightenment, and what enlightenment they attained. I do not want to comment upon whether the Chan school is good, bad, or mediocre. There indeed have been many founders of sects who have attained enlightenment through this school, yet they were founders of sects. What enlightenment have ordinary people attained through practicing the Chan school? Even Swan Hua, who always regarded himself as belonging to the Chan school, was in great pain at the time of his death and could not make any decisions himself. Hence, as part of the esoteric Dharma, the Buddhas have transmitted the Mahamudra of brightness, the Mahamudra of the Ganges River, the heart within the heart, the great perfection, etc. By way of the book Zhongguanjian, one can understand and can directly give rise to realization of one's original nature. This is especially true with respect to the Mahamudra of brightness, which is similar to contemplating the answers to koans. However, this Mahamudra causes one to become clearly aware of one's original mind and to thoroughly see one's original nature by relying upon a special type of empowerment. To put it bluntly, it is a type of empowerment. The two types of Dharma are good. The Chan school is good and esoteric Buddhism is good. Both are good Buddha Dharma. There are those who say to me, Dharma King, It seems as though you always prefer to some extent esoteric Buddhism. I will tell you, I just said that both types of Dharma are good. Why do you think that I have a preference? You might say, I heard you say that esoteric Buddhism contains empowerment or other types of power. The Chan school does not contain such things. Right, I will answer you. You cannot say that I speak falsely. What I will say is sincere. What I will say is true. The Buddhas do not speak falsely. I must emulate the Buddhas by not speaking falsely. Both dharmas are good. You will know whether what I say is true as soon as you hear it. Thus, I admire the Chan school. After one realizes the highest principles through practicing Chan, it is the same as the esoteric Dharma. There is no difference. However, the methods of the Chan school, or what modern people would call the work of the Chan school, is different from the work of esoteric Buddhism. The methods of work are different. The processes for attaining the various levels of realization which one achieves are different, yet they are both Dharma of the Buddhas. Any Dharma is good if one can grasp its essence and thereby instantly become accomplished by entering into the truth of the Tathagata. Very important statement, it seems like.
Yeah, let's read that again.
The methods of work are different. The processes for attaining the various levels of realization which one achieves are different, yet they are both Dharma of the Buddhas. Any Dharma is good if one can grasp its essence and thereby instantly become accomplished by entering into the truth of the Tathagata.
So let's just sit there for a second with that. Any Dharma is good if one can grasp its essence and thereby instantly become accomplished by entering into the truth of the Tathagata. So he's giving us instruction here about how we can move forward. And it doesn't, in the end, it doesn't matter which journey you take, as long as you're able to do this and do it heartfelt and cultivate it, move through it, study it, practice it in various ways, carry it with you throughout your day.
In summary, the Pure Land School, the Chan School, the Mind Only School, which investigates consciousness, and the Discipline School, where one practices the precepts and rules, are all good Buddha Dharma. But some say that reciting the precepts and rules is the best, and that reciting the precepts and rules is tantamount to seeing the Buddha. Mere memorization and recitation of the precepts and rules is of no use. One must abide by the precepts and rules. One is acting correctly only if one follows the precepts and rules. Only if one abides by and acts in accordance with the precepts and rules is one correct. Only those who abide by and act in accordance with the precepts and rules can be called true cultivators. If after one recites the precepts and rules, one does no more, then this practice is of no benefit. After one memorizes them, one must apply them. In summary, no matter what the sect may be, they all belong to the Dharma spoken by the Buddhas. They are all good Dharma. I've practiced these various Dharmas and their wonderful effects are inexhaustible. However, you definitely must not regard Buddhist studies as the Buddha Dharma itself or popular Buddhism as the essence of the Dharma.
I just want to share an experience. When I first studied and stepped into the Zen practice, I was going down to Upaya, and I had read about Zen, but I hadn't practiced Zen. And I think I've shared with many of you, I first came across Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, and I carried that with me, and I read it continuously, backpacking and throughout my days and travels. But I got down to Upaya, and it was quite a different experience in terms of just reading the book and doing the actual study of and forms of Zen. And during that time, I really became engaged deeply with that. And I went back to Portland where I was living, and a friend of mine, a close friend, was studying in the Tibetan practice, the Kagyu lineage. And she said, "Oh, so you're becoming a Zenny." And I thought, wow, really? I mean, she was not just starting her practice, she'd been pretty involved. And I started realizing how identification with a lineage took over the actual practice of what we're doing. So here he's really helping us look at this. It doesn't matter. You know, great that you're practicing this, or great that you're looking at that. Do it well, do it deeply, do it every day, all day long. It doesn't matter. Sure, there are different understandings of it, but it doesn't matter. Stay focused. Do your practice. Embody it. Love it. Create it. Be in it. Yes, Yeshi.
Hello. So as we're reading this, and teachers, I've come to realize that other teachers have said things like this, that it doesn't matter what lineage or sect of Buddhism that it is, you cultivate your own practice, you cultivate your own mind. So why is it that for an ordaining standpoint, do we ordain in specific, do people ordain in specific lineages and sects if it's not maybe always about that? Why do we continue to do that? Or why is that, sorry.
It's a great question. And then why are you all here? And why do you keep coming? You know, for me, I felt there was an inner desire for me to want to ordain, certainly to take refuge, because I felt deeply that taking refuge in the three jewels was really what I wanted. And it was a sort of a outward focused statement of my belief system. If you say it out loud, it's bigger than just mumbling about it in yourself. So for me, it was at the very beginning wanting to take refuge. And then it was, you know, I'm sure I shared with just about all of you sitting here at least, that for a while after that, I just wasn't quite engaged with it. And so I call it temple hopping. I went to I went to a Tibetan practice. I went to the ashram that did Tibetan practices. I went to the Shambhala group, and just kind of stepping in and feeling into what that practice is. And then I landed with a teacher, Venerable Paniwadi and Panyadipa. And then I started studying with her, and it resonated with me. So it really, you know, we don't want to just do it because it's what everybody, or I think it's a good idea. It really feel into it. Feel into this. How does this feel for me? Does this make sense to me? I mean, they're all teaching the same thing with different angles to it, different lenses to it, but it's all the same. So I think it's really about being able to feel into that, and maybe you can speak to it. But yeah, great. Santi?
So when we were in California and we were studying with Master Zazi, there was a point that she gave us this kind of a map of how Shakyamuni introduced the different parts of awakening, moving towards Buddhahood in his time here. And he didn't start by giving everything. He looked at the karmic conditions for those who were there in that moment and gave that bit. Once things progressed, he added on to that. Once things progressed, he added on to that. And each of those are different sects, right? So they're different ways that people can understand something. So to combine them all would actually possibly turn people away, because it's more about what someone is ready for. And the Dharma has this way of splitting itself to be what it needs to be for whoever is present. And so I think that's one of the reasons. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. it's like it all leads to one place. It's like I get the visual of like a river or something, and like all these different trails of water are leading to this same river, but there are different trails that lead to that same place. Like for me, if I would have been introduced to this through Buddha Master's teachings, probably wouldn't have jumped on board because I wasn't ready to hear that at that moment. It was actually more of like the mindfulness-based thing that I entered into it. But that's what I needed right then. Because even with that, I like could get a little bit, but so much of it went over my head still. But it was enough that kept me coming back. And eventually I could take in more. So I see just from my own path, the usefulness of the different ways of expounding on and teaching the Dharma.
Very quickly, choosing a good teacher, I think choosing a good teacher, and that's not necessarily an easy thing. I think choosing a good teacher is really critical to guide us in our path. Unless, we're just like automatically enlightened, don't need anybody for that. But I think that's really, really important.
I keep wondering why I'm here. Thank you, Sandy. I keep wondering sometimes, oh, why am I here? And I would bounce to Episcopalian and, very much drawn to the Christian contemplative tradition. And yet I could absolutely not get enough. The sustenance I got, received from Venerable. I didn't even understand it. I still don't understand it. I'm putting it on the shelf, as Joe would say. But I just jumped all around in Christianity. And yet I could not help but come back here week after week. So I don't understand it, but I'm here.
Other thoughts? This is a really, I think, thank you, Yashim, for those of you that are new today. This is our newest and delightful resident, Yeshi. I think we introduced you as Jordy, but she did take refuge and get a Dharma name. So we are working at, yeah.
But then you learn that it's not really, my mind is like, well, why are they still separate? And so that, and that can be so overwhelming because it's like, for me, really into my path, I just know that. And so it's like, choose, you have to choose which means. And so that is so overwhelming, especially coming from Western world, because our culture is saturated from all other cultures coming here, and so that's just part of my process of understanding.
Yeah. Would you be willing to talk about your transition of going to the Pure Land now and how you got to that place, back to the Pure Land, I guess?
So for me, when I was younger, we weren't sure on which belief system we wanted to go to. And so of course went religion shopping and hopped from place to place and seeing what truths do I want to go towards. And when I was younger, we found a Pure Land tradition that we really connected to. It was close to home, and it was a place that we wanted to continue our practice. And
why am I talking? That's wonderful. We're talking about why different sects or lineages, and I guess I was just wondering if you could speak to you got to Pure Land and then you went to Thich Nhat Hanh, and then you came here, and now you're circling back around, which is sort of an incredible way of looking at your personal growth and where you're headed. So I just wanted you to speak to that.
Okay, sorry. Okay, now I understand the question. So yes, when I was younger, chanting was my favorite thing to do. I really enjoyed that, and we went on a pilgrimage and decided to go to different lineage, to different Buddhist lineages, and seeing, and just traveling from different temples to pay homage to the bodhisattvas there, and decided that we went to a Zen tradition, Thich Nhat Hanh's tradition, and stayed there and practiced there, and seeing the benefit of the practice there for myself, of how much growth I will be able to receive, and learning new things from different traditions, and practiced there for a few years. And learn many things, just like how I learned in Pure Land, how much benefit that brought to me, and then coming here and learning different techniques and learning lots of different ways to continue our practice, and figuring out how much I've learned, and bringing me back to where I can see my true self in that. Yeah, and seeing how much faith I have in that. Yeah, I'm just not sure on how to express it, just because I'm not going to go into
Yeah.
other topics, but I just had a really weird dream and this morning, and I just had this fire up, and now it's just kind of, just a lot that's going on, and just trying to figure out where I truly can sit and just honor that. Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks. It's a great question, as I mentioned, and I think it's an important one to really sense into what you're learning, if you're in a constant state of questioning and not understanding, and you can't get the guidance. And I totally agree with you, Elsie, that the teacher is a critical factor in, and not just the teacher that sits here, but the Sangha and how we can learn from each other. It's about that. But if you feel that Buddhism is the direction, it is like, I'm feeling like I need to be in a Christian congregation or Sangha, and then you go from place to place to find a place that fits how you want to learn the studies and the understandings of Jesus or whatever they practice. I found I have a strong affinity. I have very good friends that are Jewish, and I have a strong affinity for their practices. And I would go at high holidays to be with them, and I found it wonderful. And still, my North Star is Buddhism. I get to bring all these practices in and help inform me of how I want to be in the world. So it's really deep discernment for all of us. And as we grow in developmentally within Buddhism, or also developmentally in our age, we may need or want to look for something different. As I've grown into these next decades, I'm looking at, and just I'm reading some books that Pema Chodron has on the last part of your life. I'm starting to turn towards that. And how does that look for me? Bringing along all the things, even from my Lutheran life, that meant so much to me back when I was very young. And it still sits there. I draw from that. Does that help? Anyone else want to share? Anybody online want to share?
I just wanted to say one thing quickly. I think it's important to seek the place that feels like home, but I also think it's important to be aware of any tendency that this is something that I can speak of personally, just where maybe you're feeling a little insecure in your growth in that area, and then to just like say, well, I'm going to try something else. Well, I'm going to try something else. That'll give me the result. You know, there's also the need to stay with and be patient with and trust in and develop the faith in and trust yourself and the wisdom inside yourself. So that's just something else.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, all of this is really part of it. It's really part of it. And sometimes it's just a knowing, and sometimes it's a discovery. And then the discovery goes on. And when I started with Venerable, I didn't know what Buddha Master was. And then I had questions about it. And now I get it now. But it didn't happen like that. And it was a process of studying. And I think I've read What is Cultivation 4 or 5 times now. And I do outline it. And it's got different questions now than it did 3 years ago. So I want to just say at the bottom of this page that I'm on, did I get to that with the essence of the Dharma? He says, however, you definitely must not regard Buddhist studies as the Buddha Dharma itself or popular Buddhism as the essence of the Dharma. And there it is. And then the note down below says, popular Buddhism in this book refers to the overall structure, development, and history of Buddhism. It is therefore different from the Buddhist studies in the Buddha Dharma. To give a metaphor, using a car, the overall appearance of the car can be likened to popular Buddhism. Books and magazines which discuss various aspects of cars can be likened to Buddhist studies, and the functioning of the car itself can be likened to the Buddha Dharma. I think Venerable spoke to that on Sunday a little bit. I'll continue on. I have been practicing the Buddha Dharma my whole life, beginning when I was a child. This year, I am 93 years old. Hence, I have experienced weariness and fatigue. Yet no matter whether it was weariness or fatigue, after experiencing it, I forgot about it. Even time itself is just impermanent. The Vajra hair in between my eyebrows has grown more than 1 foot long. My beard will grow to be as long as my body. What, after all, is the reason for this? This proves that the magnificent power of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is so real and strong, and that I've received empowerment from a true lineage within esoteric Buddhism. Yet the empowerment from a lineage is a type of manifestation of the Dharma. Nevertheless, the Buddha gave a simile wherein he compared the Dharma to a raft. After I attain liberation, I will not want this Vajra hair. If I were to want it for something, I would use it as part of my waistband. My beard would also then be of no use. All of these things can be called impermanent. That kind of skipped forward, but I think that, again, was speaking a little bit to our discussion today. He did have a note about the simile. In this simile, a man uses a raft to get to the other shore of a river. The Buddha explains how wrong it would be for this man to think that because the raft was so useful, he should now carry it on his shoulders wherever he goes. Rather, having served its purpose, the raft should be discarded. The raft is compared to the Dharma. After it serves its purpose by taking one to the other shore of liberation, it should not be clung to. So I guess a good question is, why are you here today? What motivated you to come? And what will you take from today with you? What will you live out from this experience and all the experiences that you've accumulated over time? I often would ask in the schools, what is your what? What is your what? On that note, I'm going to ask us to just to go into a few moments of silence and to let some of this settle. May we think of this. During countless eons, for this one time, we have attained this precious human birth, which is so very hard to achieve and so easy to lose. The time of death is uncertain, and conditions leading to death are beyond our comprehension. This cherished body can die even today. So we should abandon all worldly concerns that keep us chained to non-virtuous acts of body, speech, and mind. Instead, we should use this little time we have left wisely and practice Dharma with urgency, reflecting on the benefits of liberation. By the power of this compassionate practice, may suffering be transformed into peace. May the hearts of all beings be open and their wisdom radiate from within. Sadhu, sadhu.